Sup my little storm chasers, it's your favorite clout-chasing masochist. Today I'm presenting you with a challenge that could be considered highly dangerous and explosive. A challenge that masquerades itself as family friendly, but after peeling back the layers, we're left with a technique of self-induced pain that will cause severe brain damage to anyone who will try this run. The obstacle that will be overcoming today will be, can you beat CyberPunk 2077 only using grenades? To achieve this eruptive challenge, the rules will be simple. Grenades will be the only form of damage that will be permitted during this run unless being forced by the game in scenarios I don't consent to. No cybernetics or melee will be permitted. 3. Don't forget to like and sub. In a world which corporations rule every facet of society, but not all hope is lost, as somehow the legend of Night City will return to save the world. Through the powers of cloud and anime, Yasuke is born into the universe of CyberPunk 2077. Upon choosing the Street Kid intro, where we're thrusted into our first job in stealing a car from a small-time fixer, whose large ears that could function as a cereal bowl. But we were interrupted by this used condom, which after we were caught, beaten, and dropped back into the streets of Night City, we successfully T-posed through Jackie and I's anime friendship arc, to which we were finally given freedom to our first gig. As we were fresh into the game, our supply for grenades was quite dire, but after testing several scenarios and multiple flatlines within the intro, my only option was to use my primal instinct and lay down the pipe on these NPCs. We successfully rescued our target and delivered her to the trauma team, to which Jackie and I left to go home after a hard day of work, but again, we faced an obstacle that would challenge the integrity of this run. But luckily for us, these jizz magicians decided that self-implosion would be the best solution in getting rid of us. Past this point, Night City became our canvas for demolition, but to continue this ultimate Sigma grind set that Jackie and I have been hustling for, a level up would be needed. We met up with a renowned knife fixer, Dexter Deshawn, for the opportunity of a lifetime. Our first job from Dexter was child's play. We were dropped into purchasing the latest Dyson drone from the gang named Maelstrom, which specialized in circular RGB face implants. But before pursuing our goal, we would need to establish a plan on how this explosive challenge will be conquered. For this run to work, we will be active users of grenades, the crafting tab, and technical ability tree. Grenades will be the damage of our run. With the large cast of diverse grenades that is present within CyberPunk, I'll have multiple options to use throughout this. I only used one grenade type for pretty much the whole run. The crafting tab will be able to keep this run nourished with grenades, but one caveat in this run will be the materials required to constantly upkeep the amount of grenades that will be used. With the sheer amount of these materials being required, I will need to corner the market for supplies and crafting. Lastly, for this plan to work, an investment will be made into the technical ability tree. While there aren't too many good options, the ability to decrease the cost of crafting and increasing damage will come handy. Finally, don't forget to drop a like and a sub, as this helps the channel significantly. Before Maelstrom, I decided onto a quick detour to a friendly establishment, where we met with our contact Evelyn, who was able to provide us on specifics that will be required to scale through the Arasaka Tower and steal the consciousness of our Lord and Savior Johnny Silverhand, aka Keanu Reeves. Initially, the Maelstrom employees were quite welcoming to Jackie and I's present, but once money became involved, the deal became sour. My only option at this point was to go ballistic on these raging fleshlights, and prove finally for once that grenades do indeed beat scissors. Moving through the Maelstrom facility felt like the equivalent of stepping in gum, constantly peppered by bullets and hacks. Yet the swagger we unleashed proved to be no match for our luscious gigachads. With us now having the latest Dyson in our possession, the squad began to assemble the final details of the heist. We were ready to pull off the greatest heist of all time and rescue our gaming overlord Johnny Reeves. Once arriving at the hotel, we were pleasantly greeted to some friendly walking golden showers. They directed us to a beautiful room where Jackie and I were finally able to profess our love between each other. After some pleasurable time spent with Jackie, we were ready to finally complete our mission and achieve greatness. We made our way towards the suite where the chip was hidden in a well-placed fridge. But as we were ready to make our escape, a family meeting began to take place. After some choice words and a chokehold maneuver by Yorinobu towards his father, our plan was chalked. We searched frantically for an exit, but in the end we had nowhere to escape to and had to leap off a building to save ourselves. With a rough landing and a damaged ship, our room for error kept narrowing. Also, with roaming guards and no grenades, our only option was to run for our lives. My need for speed was no match for the guards protecting the elevator, but I can't say the same for our lovable Jackie. Luckily for us, the DeLorean was ready to go once we reached the lower floor, but due to our circumstance of being chased by Express VPN Amazon drones, we had to break the sacred rule of our run, as anything that destruction of these drones resulted in a game over. Returning to Dexter's, we said our final goodbyes to our lover Jackie, and made our way towards Dexter's apartment. But our meeting was concluded early, as Dexter's solution was putting up quick bullet between our eyes. Luckily for us, the chip finally became activated. We were able to finally transcend to Keanu Reeves. This newly unlocked power allowed for us to go Super Saiyan on our foes. With this sudden power increase, we demolished every single individual within the Arasaka Tower. Yet, Keanu in the end suffered the same fate as I have come to share. But Mama didn't raise no bitch, and we resurrected from the trash rubble. We met with Takamura, who proceeded to save our lives and deliver us to needed medical attention. From here, we were finally free to indulge into the world of cyberpunk and proceed with this ass-kicking challenge. With our readily available freedom, we searched for Evelyn as she had knowledge of the timely nuke that was planted within our head. The last known whereabouts of Evelyn was a club called the Clouds. which specialized in romantic endeavors. Yet again, we were forced into a scenario where our supply of grenades was taken away, but don't fret, my little storm chasers. Through sneaking, I was able to collect enough supplies to create a handful amount of grenades, which will allow for us to decimate and disintegrate anyone who stands in our way. Once finally making my way past each and every employee, I was left with the boss. I actually blew up our lead, but luckily for us, his computer provided enough information on Evelyn's whereabouts. Reaching Evelyn's location, I was finally primed with my full arsenal ready to take on any human, cyborg, or any French member in this area. Once entering this warehouse of doom, I was left with no options but to decimate every foe that stood in my way. But I began to feel nervous as I noticed that my large supply of grenades began to run dry. My only option was to salvage and craft whenever I had a chance. Saving Evelyn, we were rewarded with information that pushed the story forward. Our next goal resided with meeting with the Voodoo Boys. Once arriving to Pacifica, I felt a potent erection forming within my pants. In our past video, we suffered greatly from a past challenge in this location, which I highly recommend. It was a good watch. But with my newly found confidence of high damage, I was fully prepared to absolutely demolish every single individual who guarded the mall. I was not leaving till every single bodily fluid was emptied out of our foes. The parking lot offered no challenge to us, as our grenades ripped and teared right through. Even entering the gym portion, I was riding of sheer adrenaline. Nothing stood in my way. I took the escalator, ready to continue my path of destruction. My movement was looking clean. I'm dodging the damage. Nothing can kill. Oh, I died. Wait, I died again. Once moving towards the upper floor, there was a significant amount of enemies who dived me, shot at me, and a turret, which, if it grasped a glimpse of a pixel, it would instantly defile my existence in nothingness. I realized that a direct approach would not be sustainable to the success of our run. My new strategy was simple: sit and wait till each enemy peeked into this tightly knit corridor and delete them from this timeline. As I moved deeper into the mall, I realized that our foes stood no chance in our endeavor, but something that did cause massive stains within my underwear was the turret. With the mall cleared out and my freedoms reinstated, I reached the truck, gathering information for the Voodoo Boys. For the final act of the Grand Imperial Mall, we had to face our toughest challenge yet. Matilda K. Rose, aka Sasquatch, a leader of the animal gang, who certainly had the dog in her. A fast and assertive Dommy Mommy, with the strength of Thor, but luckily for us, this roided monkey stood no chance against our explosive power. Through a game of Ring Around the Rosie, Matilda was blown away by the charm of our grenades and was taken down. We were able to make it down to the man behind the operations at the mall, who provided vital information behind the backstab that the Voodoo Boys were planning towards me. Once returning to Placide and Brigitta, we were sent to memory lane of Johnny Silverhand yet again. We met Alt, an AI from the deep web and an ex-girlfriend of my second half. Alt was able to provide us with important information about our impending doom. Yet Alt was ready to make a deal to save our lives. A stellar deal to ensure our continued existence. We also received an extra little bonus of members of Voodoo Boys being exterminated, while only leaving us to face off with Placide, who turned out to be more difficult than expected. I conquered what was left of the remaining Voodoo Boys and left with my dignity intact. With the Voodoo Boys completed, I moved onwards to Rogue and finally meeting my destined love. Yet Rogue had a high cost of entry, but luckily for us, I was filled with riches of V-Bucks. With the Rogue paid off, I was informed with the information of our next target, Hellman, an expert of the chip that was deeply seated into my skull. We first had to fulfill a mission for the fan favorite, Panem, who would not insist on our goal till we helped her. Panem planned a fast-paced mission which would rival the Fast and the Furious franchise in complexity. A night raid where our enemies would be blinded by the sheer light that this small town was able to emit. Luckily for us, my grenades were able to rip and tear right through each one of these wet towels. But Panem was not satisfied yet. She still had one final task, and that was to take out Nash. Once arriving at his hideout, we received a bombardment of bullets, but it was no match for the constant abuse of narcotics, which provided sufficient healing that outpaced the damage that we were receiving. I felt like I was living up to my fantasy of being Tom Brady, but with grenades. I was able to launch these mini nukes at my enemies and simply evaporate them from existence. A man who thought his speed would be able to outmatch my grenade radius, but this low IQ specimen decided his best course of action was to trap himself in a 4x4 room. With Nash defeated and Panem finally satisfied, we turned to a musty hotel to rest and then plan our big day of capturing Hellman. I collected enough materials to be prepped for any battle that was ahead of us and rode to the desert yet again with Panem. On our way to trap Hellman, we were blessed with an extremely fun turret section taking out security drones. That definitely did not break any rules of this run. With the drones gone, we planted ourselves far from the range of 5G towers that we were going to be blowing up to knock Hellman's ship out of the orbit. With the tower blown and surging 5G radiation around us, we began to chase after the falling ship. Once arriving to the crash site after a tremendous pursuit, we were ready to rumble with the Tesla bots protecting the ship, while also playing whack-a-mole with the turrets on top of the ship. We were even able to save Mitch while having a weapon with no ammo. Yet Hellman escaped, so the chase continued, but we narrowed down his location to an out-of-business 7-Eleven in the desert. While the building was guarded heavily, the Kang Tao were not ready for the best Fortnite duo of 2021. I ran in headfirst with my grenades while Panam covered me from the hill. With my upgrades and supply of grenades, these floppy wieners stood no chance in protecting Hellman. The turret from the Grand Imperial Mall decided to make a return. I was zeroed by it faster than I could count to 3, but again I proved that movement is king and dodged every projectile that was launched at me. With Kangtown blown to smithereens, I successfully captured my prey, received a free bike. That was still slower than Jackie's bike, but that's okay, we take what we can get. We returned to the best hotel in the desert and learned new tech, which now stated that Johnny and I have become intertwined in my body's subconscious, and we're destined to become Johnny. Hellman did offer us an option of keeping ourselves safe, but the strong-headed Chad that I am, I knew there was more that could be done. We left Hellman with Takamura and moved towards our next mission. Takamura had prepared a plan which would bring us closer to removing the chip and achieving the mental clarity that we all strive for after a long session. With the upcoming Japantown festival, Takamura planned to hijack a float to get closer to Hanako and clear our names. But before we could attend the festival, we first had to find and hack a float that Hanako will be staying in. Once reaching the very heavily guarded facility that kept all the floats for the festival, we took an approach of lurk, engage, and suppress. I successfully sneaked upon a bridge, but my clumsy ass was spotted rather quickly, so at this point my only option was to go shock and awe and be the danger that I was born to be. I will not lie, this section felt a lot easier than I was expecting. Besides snipers, which outpaced my brain's ability to compute actions, I was able to reach my goal and guarantee access to a float. The festival was underway. We made our way through the crowd, searching for snipers that Takamura tasked us with taking out. A relatively easy task that I somehow managed to die to. Once successfully taking out the 3 stooges, I arrived at my final target, a netrunner. When I decided to pull the plug, I was met with my new challenge, Oda. Another boss with significant amounts of movement, which stayed glued to my ass cheeks and dodged the only damage I was able to output. Luckily for us, Oda's weakness was discovered relatively early. Oda was unable to comprehend on how to turn corners, which opened avenues for us to return explosive damage. With Oda defeated and spared, we captured Hanako and made our escape to a super secret location, which we were able to reveal the truth to Hanako about her father's death. But not even minutes after, we were rudely interrupted, which sent us to another round of escaping. We fought and clawed through each corridor to save Takamura. We ran joyfully to the endgame. For our final piece of this challenge, we will choose the Pan Am ending, as we will never succumb to the corpo lifestyle. We received some new drip from the avocados, and we were ready to storm the Arasaka Tower. The Arasaka Tower was littered with immediate dangers, but nothing stood in my way anymore, due to my alpha stature. Adam Smasher, the antagonist of Edge Runner's anime, was finally defeated through the power of grenades. Thus, we became the Legends of Night City. With this level of success, I can say that CyberPunk 2077 can indeed be completed using only grenades. Kinda.